Crouch. Bind. Set.
Joe presents the House of Rugby, together with Guinness.
My word, time flies when you're having fun. Episode 13, unlucky for some, of House of Rugby, brought to you by Joe, together with our very good friends at Guinness. My name is Alex Payne. It's great to be back once again, alongside the England and Northampton star, James Haskell. Nice of you to turn up to your own show.
Thank you. There was some confusion.
There certainly was.
Do you know what, there was even so much confusion that I actually called up Murray, who you would have seen for the Christmas edition on the video, bringing the beers in, and actually told him that I needed the car to pick me up from Franklin's Gardens because I had a late session. And he said, yeah, fine. So I was like, brilliant. I actually waited outside.
He was on holiday in Dubai at the time, so
I think he was steaming. He was probably steaming. He didn't know what was going on.
Good.
And I actually waited outside the stadium for the car, and when the car didn't come, I started calling people up, going, well, like, what's going on?
I had 4 missed calls.
Yeah, you didn't call me. You didn't answer.
Putting my kids to bed at the time. It was a Monday night. It was New Year's Day.
Listen, we don't get these things. Like, we don't get New Year's Days and bank holidays and stuff like that. So I thought any normal person, we do it every single Tuesday night.
That's what a mobile phone is for. It's communication.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so I waited for the car and it didn't turn up, and I was mortified and devastated to miss the show. It was a really good one.
It was a good show, wasn't it?
Did you actually question? I mean, I listened to part of it, but Nick Easter, obviously, all of it. Nick Easter was obviously great on it, but I don't think you question about why he speaks like a Cockney gangster when he's he's more middle class than we are.
Upper middle,
and we actually had the most upper middle class conversation before the show started, didn't we?
We're inclusive.
Yeah, so basically, I had to go back to an old school of mine to open a building. Credible honour, Papwick School. They've basically got it on a plaque, so it's easy to pull down if something bad happens that may or may not happen. And I said to them, as a proviso for doing that, I wanted to be made a prefect, because when I was at school, age sort of 7 to 13, I wasn't a prefect. I was actually head librarian, genuine head librarian.
You are one of those people who you will never leave your school days, will you?
No, but I was head librarian. You told me, what were you in charge of?
I was head of the School of Mechanics.
Head of the School of Mechanics?
CDT, essentially.
Is there a more middle-class sentence? He's just blown away.
Yeah, I used to like CAD package design. I used to be able to draw the inner workings of a Dyson... Well, it's not a Dyson Hoover, it's a Dyson vacuum.
Really?
Yeah. That was...
You obviously weren't very good with girls for a period of time.
Well, you say that. I'm a demon around the house when it comes to housework, and that gets you brownie points with the right people.
Do you know what I had? You know, they have those young enterprise things at school, actually. I wanted to air this for a while. Young enterprise things are a fantastic thing, but at my school, they had a young enterprise thing at Wellington, and they made these... notepad holders, right? So you paid them and ordered them, and it didn't come until the last week of the school. They turned up. It looked like I put it together, or it looked like a person with no hands put it together. It was all at angles, and it's a bit awkward when you have to sort of sharpen them up and say this is the worst thing you've ever seen. So hopefully your creations in CDT were better than that absolute shambles that cost me about 12 quid.
What's that, producer Si? That's the worst story you've told in 13 episodes so far. Great to have you back, Hask. If we could up the levels from here a little bit. What I am going to do at this point is introduce our special guest, the man with the Midas touch, Mr. Ben Ryan. We had so much positive feedback to episode 1 with you. It's fantastic you're back. How are you? How was New Year? How was Christmas?
Chilled and relaxed, and I loved the last time. So
you've gone with a knitwear. It's not naval knit this week. I'd call it country knit, gardening knit.
Yeah, probably outer London borough knit.
But he's chilled out, because before it was like a turtleneck. He was obviously feeling like a bit insecure, like wasn't sure what we were going to be about. Now he's rolled it down relaxed. A few inches to like...
What would happen next?
I'd love if you came in a woolen vest, a bit like... I tell you who it would look like, Wallace and Gromit, where he like loses the sleeves. I can imagine you in a Wallace style thing.
It's very good to have you back. And we've got lots to talk about. What I'd like to do this week... Why are you laughing?
I was just thinking about the woolen vest. He turned up and he's like quietly laughing, going, "Why did I come back?"
You're laughing at your own joke.
Well, I can't
always laugh at your joke. I mean, that first story was so bad, I need to carry on.
There's so much we want to talk to you about the continuation of your story. But last time what happened is we spent so much time talking about your story. I'd love to get your views on some of the sort of hot topics at the moment as well. So if we start with those, then we can move on to those.
Good.
A couple of big stories in the press this week. First of all, Premiership Rugby. The minutes were leaked from their recent board meeting, and there is an insinuation they may look at going it alone if they don't get what they want from the RFU, which apparently is ring fencing of the Premiership at the end of this season. Likely? Unlikely? Threatening?
They definitely weren't. They definitely weren't leaked, were they? That was strategic.
How does that?
Left on a photocopy.
What leaks in a sieve that place, isn't it? It's like that TV series Yes Minister, where everyone's accidentally leak and they will have a leak inquiry, but no one ever finds out what's going on.
That was done on purpose, because I'm sure they're doing a little bit of toing and throwing about wanting to have ring fencing, and then if they don't, they might pull out, and so that's obviously gone public, and that's going to cause.
So if you were a betting man, would you think that ring fencing will happen at the end of this season and Prem Rugby and RFU will continue to hold hands?
Yeah, I think my view is that I think ring fencing, it depends what you term. If you term that they're going to have no automatic promotion, doesn't stop expansion, doesn't stop the opportunity, especially if they have 13 stakeholders.
Yes.
They go up with the opportunity. If a team is able to move up and has the finances and everything else, they can have expansion. I think that's what will happen.
Interesting.
I also think it's a good idea for the game, and I know lots of people talk about lots of arguments about promotion and relegation, but I think for stability, we're still a new professional sport, for the top of the game, for young English players coming through, more opportunity. There's so many good reasons for that to happen.
Interesting. I'm going to ask you quite a tricky question. I'm quite interested to know your answer here. Say Armageddon happens and Prem Rugby splits from the RFU.
I become captain of England. Is that? That's my
quite possibly, because you'll be out of contract at the end of the season and you'll go to play for Cornish Pirates, and the RFU will say, okay, Prem Rugby, go and do your own thing. We will only pick an England team from the Championship, which we own and control.
Right.
Where would you want to be? Would you want to still, I mean, hypothetically, this is 5-6 years ago, would you drop down into the Championship to continue to play for England, or would you take the money off playing with Wasps at the time?
So, my situation now, I'd drop down and play for England.
Yes. I bet you would.
I think because I just think, there's different parts of a player's career, and I remember having a conversation with Eddie actually 2 or 3 years ago, talking about rugby decisions, what you're going to do, and it was always about what's going to make you the best player. That's what it's about. If you've got the wherewithal and you've got bits and pieces, then you'll make more money off the field doing that kind of stuff than anything else. And it's about prioritising rugby, and certainly my move to Northampton was all about that. And I think actually, I think there's certain different motivations, and whatever you pare back everything that you do as a player, or certainly I've done in my career, and it's all been about trying to keep playing for England. Even when I went to France, we were allowed to do that. When I went to the Highlanders and had that kind of period of time in Japan, it was a transition year after a pretty terrible World Cup. I wanted to experience that and come back and play, and that made a massive difference to my career and my ability. So I would do that. I think if I was a younger player, I would probably difficult. I'd probably go into the Premiership because.
But that would be at the expense of playing international rugby.
Yeah, I think it would be a hard one. I think, any player would choose it, but unless you're going to be. It's a very hard one, because I think depending on what the Premiership was like, I'd have concerns about how effective with sponsorship and everything it would be without having the RFU and that kind of linked in. I don't know a lot about the finances, but my concern is that if you had some really intelligent people running a separate league with unbelievable sponsorship, we even made it a summer sport, whatever, so you could extend things, made it more commercial, whatever it might be, you could create an unbelievable thing. However, I think a lot of teams would fall apart. I think there's some mad owners of rugby clubs out there who just literally do what they want.
Like,
I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus. And I just think that you need that RFU gives you a bit of stability. They're almost like the headmaster that kind of checks. I think. Again, I'm talking. I haven't looked at the details of it because, to be honest with you, I've been trying to get back from injury. But I would think that if you could do it, you could focus on those things. But I would certainly, early on in my career or middle of my career, may stay in the Premiership, that it was competitive. If it was well paid, well organised, well sponsored, it was got all the TV, got all that kind of stuff, because eventually I think England would want to start picking players from that. They'd have to make some sort of agreement. They'd come cap in hand, because you can't play on the international stage with not the very best players, I don't think. But for me, at the moment,
take a 5-year plan, 5 years of pain. I don't know why I'm sort of playing this scenario out. But I suppose it's just extraordinary that we are now 23 years into professional rugby, and we are still having back page headlines, which is Prem Rugby is about to split from. Is that extraordinary, or am I naive in thinking that is?
No, you're not. I don't think you're naive, Alec. I just think that we are still a young professional sport. When you look at where we would be then in American football, we're somewhere in the late 50s. Compared with where how long they've been professional. They've thrown this out here as well to create some furore and all these sort of things, to force various hands and to get deals done.
And it comes off the back of the CVC injection of 200 million. Is that an amazing thing for the Premiership, or is it?
I haven't seen the detail of it all. You've seen lots of people that are anti and lots of people that are pro. I mean, bottom line is a lot of the Prem clubs are going to get additional funding now. Yeah. But this is all connected. This is not just a standalone argument. I think that we'll look back at this and see that this. You can see how this will all get joined up.
Is that what you think? Everything is the plates. The stars are beginning to align as opposed to the plate tectonics beginning to rub.
Yeah, I think so. And I think they're obviously. I think Prem Rugby are making some bold moves at the moment, and they're obviously not getting what they want to behind closed doors with the RFU. So they've leaked. They've gone, and there'll be something else that will happen, I'm sure, and this will continue to run around for the next few weeks.
I will say, I think Ben's point about actually rugby isn't as professional as it's made out to be. I don't think. I still think there's so much room for improvement across the board. Not necessarily talk about the finances and the complicated stuff, just the approach to things, some of the coaching, some of the recovery, all these bits. And we've talked about in other shows about the S&C, some of the research. There's still players, there's still people operating within professional rugby who have had that crossover from amateur to professional, and people don't necessarily know how to be professional. It's a learning curve, and it takes time to develop. We're still, for a long period of time, we're quite close-knit rugby. Rugby used to shun a lot of things. Stay very humble. Don't do this. It's all about this. Don't develop yourself as a player. Don't do stuff off the field. Don't. Everyone's got to do the same program. Everyone's got to do different program. Don't do too many weights. Be bigger. Be smaller. We're all still trying to find our feet. We've got all these piles of data and GPS information, heart rate monitors, and all this kind of stuff. But even nutrition, I think, in rugby still behind. You've still got really fat rugby players. And I just don't.
Like who?
I can't think off the top of my head, but I just don't think there's obviously a balance between certain positions requiring that. But really fat, out of shape rugby players, it's just not. There's no need for it. Like that doesn't. You just don't need to have that. I think the psychological part of rugby's there. I think the way players are managed, but things with agents, the way deals are done, the way that kind of stuff done. I think we're still, we're behind professional football in this country, and we're behind lots of things.
Yeah, by a long way.
Yeah, and I think if you ask some players, I won't mention, there's one player in particular who I've spoken to who feels quite strongly about this, and it's just interesting because he has, almost seen a bit of some of the football world and seen bits and pieces, and. It's just interesting. He says those things, and I know, having dealt with these things, you're still, even on a commercial perspective, there's still an amateur feel about a lot of the things we do. So, if you were to, am I just concerned? Whatever you do, you've got to have the right people in place. And we talked about the commercial side of rugby and why, whether it's a viable business, and you get a lot of these people who come from other areas. And I've always had it where you get someone who goes, I used to be at F1, now running the commercial thing in rugby. I was like, if you're any good, you'd still be in F1, because F1's the biggest commercial thing in the world. Like, why would you come down for less money, or why would you do that? So I genuinely think we're still a game that's evolving. I just hope the people in charge make the right decisions with that in mind, and we don't believe that we're the finished articles. I really don't think we are.
No, well, maybe this will lead to it, that we can, but the problem is, the people that are making the decisions have all got invested. Just you can't sack yourself, and or either looking for a return or actually going, do you know what, I'm actually not as good as I think I am, and we've got people that aren't as good either. And James is absolutely right. In all the other professional sports, especially in North America and in professional football, we are a long way behind.
Wow. Watch this space. With great interest. Just on those unfit rugby players, if only there was a sort of book where they could be taught how to cook.
Well, I thought when you said the big news this week was I've got my third book's out, Cooking for Fitness. So it is available on Amazon, in Sainsbury's, in
75% discount already, isn't it? Is it?
No, absolutely not. Bins? If anything, it's gone up. People are buying it. They're taking it back to the shop going, wow, we got this at such a good deal. I want to pay more for it because it's sorted out my rig and my diet, and my food has never been more flavoursome.
When you bring out a book on chat,
I'm writing at the moment. It's going to be like Encyclopedia Britannica. It's going to be in 17 stages. It's going to be like as long as the War and Peace.
What's your fourth book? Will your fourth book be that then? do you think?
Humility with James Haskell. Punctuality.
I
with
think
James
about bringing
Haskell.
out an aftershave range.
Oh.
Arrogance by Haskell. You just spray yourself down. No, I'm joking. I definitely wouldn't
You're
call it
not.
arrogance.
You're absolutely
I think
not.
I want to do. I don't want to do something else apart from health and fitness. I'm going to rewrite. I wrote a rugby book. It was my very first rugby book, actually. And the whole idea was that on social media, always getting questions from like young players and people about why you should be in
Did you
shape,
set
what
up
you should do.
bots to ask you the questions in order that you get?
no, genuine.
You're one of those that says, for all those that have been asking,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
one bloke accidentally
As you
sent a question to the wrong
shouted something
person.
as you drove past. It could have been
Humble
I was an
brag.
arsehole. It could have been how do I eat probably. No, and I was getting this question. So I wrote this rugby book, and I want to rewrite that because I've learnt more about it now.
Combinate, yeah, okay.
And it was just basically about, young players who want to come into the game, male or female, don't necessarily know what to do. And there's this image that you have to spend all your time in the gym, you have to do this, and there's nothing to do with the game. And people get so confused about it. And I get asked about supplements all the time. It's like, no, look at food first. So I'm going to rewrite that, I think.
Have you won an Olympic gold medal?
No.
No. We'll talk to the man who has sort of delivered on that.
He asked a question. He asked me a question this week.
It's a nice segue from you to our special guest.
But you're rude. Wait until we get off air.
talking truth.
You're like at boarding school again.
I'll put you in detention. Right, I want to pick up because we've got so much to talk about. Obviously, just for a recap, if you haven't seen the previous show that we did with Ben, it is well worth going back to find it. It's just one of the most incredible, not only rugby stories, but sporting stories. For those who didn't catch it, just as a quick update, you can still access it via iTunes and YouTube. Essentially, we heard about the job that you got via Twitter. We then went on to talk about the fact the interview you had via FaceTime. The chief executive was fired off the back of giving you the job. You weren't paid for the first 6 months. You ended up winning Olympic gold, and then you were given a waterfall as a thank you.
Yes.
And someone got the legs cursed.
someone did
cursed.
get a legs cursed. We had a couple of others.
Quite a few stories we missed, and I'm just going to sort of throw them at you and take us through them. Jerry Tuwai and his boots. What a character Jerry Tuwai is, first of all.
Jerry's lovely. So Jerry was, I first saw him playing in a tournament, and he was very much good on one side of the ball. He'd beat people brilliantly, and then disappear. And I thought I brought him into training, and at the training ground we have this lovely pitch that we had created that the boys actually dug out the irrigation system, and we got bushes on either end, and the boys were doing returns, so 100-metre returns, and then you give them like a certain amount of time off. And it was at one of our fitness sessions, and they were doing the 100 returns, so 200-metre in total. And I was just looking at their resting, and I kind of checked out the numbers down the line and thinking this wasn't the same amount of people that was started this session. And then you can hear a bit of rustling in the bushes, and some of the boys were hiding in the bushes. So I grab them and kick them out, and we carry on the session. We finish the session. And out of all those guys, those bush babies, Jerry was kind of the one that stood out. He needed to have this connection between playing and training. He just thought he'd turn up at the weekend and turn it on, and he didn't have anything underneath that. So I said, Jerry, come on, I'll take you home, and I can come and meet your mum and dad, and we'll have a little talanoa, a little chat. So I took him to Newtown. And I guess you kind of think people live on the beaches and in beautiful Fiji, but most people are inland. Jerry lives in a settlement. It's a really rough part of Suva called Newtown. After the Olympics, a German journalist asked him to ask him some questions about how he learned how to play the game. Must have been great with a coconut on the beach, and he just took his shoes and socks off and showed him all the scars on his feet and said, "No, I learned how to play rugby on a roundabout," and he did. And his house was off the roundabout. It was a shack, 2 rooms, corrugated, no generator, long drop round the back. Mum and dad had a small room, and then the rest of them were all in one room, brothers and sisters. And I saw Parasa and Venice's mum and dad. I said, hey, you got a really talented son here, but he just doesn't want to work hard. He doesn't see that connection. I need to help him out. And so Vunice said when he left school at 13 or 14, his dad, Parasa, dives down Butha Bay to catch fish, spear fish, bring him up in the morning. Jerry would be on the side of the street selling the fish. So I was like, 15, he was doing that. I was playing table tennis with a jumper probably like this, getting to school early. I certainly wasn't working like that. And so when he was about 15, 16, he came to see his mum and dad one day and said, I want to play rugby. It's my dream. I want to be a professional rugby player. They didn't say anything, but mum and dad went without food for a week. They went to J.R. White's, the only sports shop in Suva at the time. They got the cheapest pair of football boots, saved up. got him to sit down a week later, and they gave him his boots and gave him his left boot and said, "This is your knife." Gave him his right boot and said, "This is your fork." He said, "This is now what you're going to use to put food on the table for us." And they kind of backed his dream, and I was like, I was taken aback. I didn't know what to say, and it reminded me, that. From that, I had to connect. I had to find out. I'd go around all the Vale, all the houses, meet all the families, find out exactly what all their triggers were, and then get people on side. And it's a bit like a New Year's resolution. You tell as many people as you can about it, so you don't give it in as easy as you could, And me and Jerry then had this really good relationship over the next 3 years because he's also addicted to chocolate. I mean, literally, he'd be knocking on my door in hotel, like in Japan, knocking on my door. Kerry Ben, chocolatini, and so rather than they didn't have any money, so they wouldn't have been able to buy anything in Japan. So I took him down to the hotel lobby and we went to a little kiosk, bought him some chocolate, and kept him going, bubbling away as his little treat. And that kept my communication, my little chats with them, to try and get the best out of him and slowly weed him off. Because I did have to take him to the dentist once. I got him to the chair at the dentist. And the dentist was coming in to inject him, and he had enough. He just busted out, ran down the high street. I was with Rapati, our manager, who's 176 kilograms, and he wasn't going to chase him, so it was down to me. So I just sped down to the high street, shouting at Jerry, come back. And he's like, "I'm not coming back." I said, "You get your teeth done, otherwise you're not playing in Hong Kong." And eventually the following day we got him back. That kind of happened all the time, things like that.
How incredible.
Yeah.
Did you ever speak to his parents after?
Yeah, well, they did a little documentary on him afterwards, and I met his parents in Suva and we had big hugs, and Jerry's girlfriend, now his wife, had just given birth as well, so... and they've got, the house has had an extension done, and lots of other things have happened now. He's bought some crop, so that he wants to. His dream is to go to Vanuatu, where he's from, another island, and be a farmer there. When he retires, he is an amazing kid, Jerry, and he was just, they've all got backstories. Yeah. They've literally all got stories like that.
The knife and the fork. Did he have those on his boots? I remember him talking. He wrote knife and fork on the bottom of his boots, and so he was playing tournaments, and that's just to remind him. And Semi Kunatani. I feel this is a bit like sort of Jack and Ori. I just sort of want to lean back and just say, do you know what I mean?
So Semi's here now. He's in West London. I actually haven't seen him since he's come over. We've just been, although he's on Instagram religiously. And Semi was, again, he was another kid that I saw him playing in a tournament. And just was a one-man wrecking ball. He was just amazing and a huge engine. So he comes up from the interior. So he's in Nandronga province, which is like the Wild Stallions province. He's up in the top in the villages where they actually, some of those villages farm cannabis and all sorts of stuff going up there, and it's very remote. And his mum died when he was a baby, so he kind of got brought up by the women of the village. And his dad was quite old, and unfortunately he's passed away as well, and very, very, very poor background. But he just shot to fame really quickly, and this agent turned up one day, week before Hong Kong, my first Hong Kong, turned up, took him to Suva to try to get him to sign with them, and just got him on the smash for 2 days. And he turns up at training a day late, drunk, and we got open training sessions so the public can all see what's going on, and Oscar is with me, the captain, and he can see what's going on as well, and we're doing fitness, and Oscar goes, "Just leave this one to us." So we get him to do the fitness. I mean, we're doing 200-metre hard sprint returns, short recoveries. He's throwing up, he's struggling. The boys have got no time for being nice to him. They're getting him through this, and then giving him a very strong chat at the end of that to tell him exactly what his values are, how lucky he is, even though he's come from nothing. And we dropped him from Hong Kong. That's actually another good story about the Hong Kong Tens that I'll leave for another day in Tanamanga, pinning someone again. Well, but
do it now.
We dropped him, and then and he played in the Hong Kong Tens for Tana, and then in the very first minute of the very first game in Hong Kong Tens, he got red carded, apparently for grabbing someone by the balls and getting a red card. Didn't do it. In fact, but the rules were that a red card, there's no sighting camera in the tens. You just get banned the whole tournament. He's flown all the way from Fiji to play 5 minutes. We meet this sighting officer, who I can't name, but very posh English guy, and the guy that got red cards. The guy that
was he wearing a fake nose and moustache?
Well, the guy that got red carded, the sighting officer, it was like, he was like, well, who am I supposed to believe? Some Pacific Islander or some Australian that went to Oxford?
Oh.
Is that what he said?
Yeah. At which point, I'm holding Tanner back because he's ready to go. I would love to have had a crack as well, and that was semi, and then the following year he came back and scored 2 tries in the final against, and then he did everything else, and he puts a lot of money back in the village and does lots of various other things. So.
Extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah,
definitely one of your relatives, wasn't it? With the sighting commission.
Man,
if he'd been there, though, he would have offered you out for a duel. Would have demanded satisfaction, leather glove across the face.
Pistols at dawn. Almost the most remarkable story is the hurricane, and I'd love to sort of for you to share. And just, are there any other angles now when you reflect on that now? Just what
from
an
the cyclone.
Extraordinary story.
No, like this. It's hard to actually, unless you've, you get a cyclone season just started in Fiji. Yeah. They've just had the same thing, not saying this happened, but they've just had another cyclone warning, and then most of the time.
What is the cyclone warning?
They've got a lot of people that meteorologists that will kind of say there's one on the way potentially. It builds, grades from TC to cyclone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. You get warnings, and like for the 3 years I was there. Those they end up somewhere else. They never hit Fiji. Tonga got hit once, Vanuatu and Samoa, I think, but we didn't. This one, same thing. It built up pace, going from a category 1 to 2 to 3. It went past us, and everyone thought, okay, that's all. It stopped. It turned on itself and went up to category 5. So it's twice the power of the one that hit Katrina. It was the biggest, and still is the biggest cyclone to ever hit a southern hemisphere, and the second biggest recorded in the history of mankind. This thing was motoring, and it was heading straight for Suva, and we get 6 hours notice. So you literally then board up the house, chop down any trees that are nearby, get all your rationing in. Police call a curfew, so you're not allowed out, and the army have a curfew on you. Grid goes down, mobile network goes down. You have a little safe room in the house where you put a mattress against the wall and get all your water in, and then you literally off the grid. And it's 6 hours. Now the cyclone ended up going about 30k north of Suva, and so it hit the north of the eye. Yeah. And it went through Rapati, our manager's cholera island, and it just didn't. The island was never to be the same. When the Australian army came to help afterwards, he said it was just like a war zone, but people having to still live in a war zone. And you get this 6 hours. And the weirdest thing is that this calm before the storm, it literally, you about an hour before it starts to build up, the animals have just disappeared. There's no noise. It's still, there's no clouds. It looks like an absolutely perfect day. And it's really eerie. And then you get in, and then you just wait, and then it starts to pick and pick and pick and pick until we hit the kind of the height for us at about 2 a.m. And you're getting that kind of feedback that you get in a microphone, because the noise, the sound, is going through bushes and going through trees, and so fast it's getting this feedback noise, this really high pitched noise, and things are crashing around. And I forgot that I hadn't taken the gas canister, hadn't detached it from the house, and realised I needed to do that. And I tried to. It was like Wizard of Oz. As soon as you open the door, like everything going through. So my wife at the time, Natalie, was like, "You're not going outside." And we were 70k south of the actual, the eye. And so we wake up in the morning, and you just see everything flattened, and where we were, it was like coconut trees, even like stripped, and they look like cocktail sticks. And then eventually 3 days, I think we weren't allowed out. And eventually you're out, and you're starting to go around, and you're seeing some of the houses had so much wind on them that they self-combust, and the girders flew out, and they fly into the sides of the hillsides. So you're seeing all these things sticking out. One village that had a small 5-metre water, a small river running through it, suddenly had become 200 metres, and those villages didn't exist. And even with 6 hours where everyone could hide away, still 50 people lost their lives, and a third of the population were homeless. Some are still in tents. So we eventually, on and off mobile network picks up here and there, and we're supposed to have a training camp because Vegas was the following weekend tournament. Yeah. All bar one of the boys gets into camp 4 days later. Like, it's ridiculous. They're all literally like, their families. Some of them didn't know where some of their family were, but they're all like, well, it's like going on national service when you pick for Fiji. It's like it just goes above everything. You've got to get to the team.
Yeah.
You've got to get to the training, and all bar Pio, because Pio not only was his wife like very ill, his house got destroyed, completely destroyed. Pio's Josh Tuwai was his brother. So he had to sort that out. He was the only one missing. They all rolled into camp. I stupidly tried to think, let's try and do some training, and they just, because not only had they not eaten, and it was really hot as well. You know, they were dehydrated. On the back of any national disaster, you get a virus or you get illness, and we had this really strong Zika virus, which is very powerful. Conjunctivitis. So you know, and it 90% of the population got it. You know, and I still have to take drops.
Really?
Because if I don't keep on top of it, then it comes back. And so we just said, like, rest up. I sent them all to bed. And then the following day we went around to the villages and tried to help the villagers. We thought it's no good us training when the villages have got all sorts of stuff that they need to be rebuilt. So we did that. And then we rolled into Vegas, got to the airport at Nandi to fly to Vegas. Airways stopped 4 of the boys flying because of the conjunctivitis, because it's so transferable. So we eventually got the team to Vegas, and just illness. I think we got 7 on the pitch in the first game, lost the first game to Samoa, and the boys literally, you know, we rounded the horses. We had a little chat. We talked about home, and then we went on and won the final. And that was probably the most emotional I'd been after that win because of everything that happened. And so we were completely buggered after that on Sunday night. So I didn't have to worry about the boys going out in Vegas. They were.
You seem quite emotional about it even now.
Yeah, because you kind of remember, like I say, unless you've actually been in a national disaster, if you've not been to that, it's really hard to explain exactly what it's like. But the thing that just always amazes me about the boys is, like, some of them, like, they lost family houses. Not only that, like, the tidal waves that came into the villages afterwards were just salt water. So if there was a farming village, they can't farm for 3 years. They've got to find another income, the whole village. You know, there's no insurance. You know, our manager, Rapati, his family home just was flattened. Nothing. He's got nothing. And they're all kind of, you know, that just, you know, drop my mobile phone in the toilet. For me, it's a disaster.
Yeah.
For them, they lost everything, and they're like, it's all right. We didn't have much to start with. We'll just get on with things. It's just an amazing attitude. So yeah, that kind of does. Yeah, you remind yourself of actually being lucky that you're around people like that, because they're super resilient. You know, and that was a tough time.
Extraordinary story, isn't it? Have you been to Fiji, Samoa?
I haven't.
On the bucket list?
Yeah, 100%. I wish I'd done it when I was actually going to do it when I was in New Zealand, because obviously you're closer.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to. I think Billy V's got a wedding in Tonga, so I think I'm going to go. I want to go over and visit.
Tonga's lovely, yeah.
Yeah, I want to. I want to go over there. Just because each island, you know, Fiji, Tonga, Samoa, I know people on it, and I'd love to go and see what it's like firsthand. And Chloe's travelled around Fiji.
Yeah.
She said it's the most beautiful place she's ever been on earth, and she's desperate to go back. So we will 100% do it.
You're watching the House of Rugby on Joe, together with Guinness.
You mentioned Pio, and I'd love to just... what you've described, I imagine, with the cyclone is the hardest experience, but was Pio almost the hardest day you had as Fiji head coach?
To drop him from the Olympics, yeah, to be bedside when his wife's dying from cancer. For him, he just knocked it all away. You know, thinking it was all right. You know, house destroyed, wife died, 2 young kids to bring up on his own, no income. You know, he left school at 13, so 7s was his only income, and we were paying, you know, $3,000 a year. You know, and you know, you get your you try and get your bonuses, and then he just wasn't making the grade as we were getting closer to the Olympics, and he kind of was eventually then. You know, he said, you know, one of the boys said, you better go and see Pio, and I went to see him in the dormitory after training, and he was, you know, he was fitting in the bed, and his eyes were rolling back, and you know, it looked like he'd been possessed. I don't think he had. I think he was, you know, that was his way of kind of going, I need to protect myself here. I know this is getting a little bit too hard. I think it all just came on top of him. because he was the most talented, probably the rugby player I've come across.
Really?
You know, for his size, 6'5", 110, 115 kilograms, maybe more. His ability his hands were just ridiculous. You've only got to go on YouTube and have a look at Jerry Tuwai's offloads and stuff. You know, they're just amazing how gifted he was. And so I kind of look at it in a positive way that we got 25 tournaments out of him over my 3 years, which, you know, he'd been dropped, he'd been all these things that he had never really had a decent run, and we got him fit for a period. But all those demons came back really a little bit too much. And I didn't have any compunction not picking him, because ultimately, you know, it was him or someone else that also came from a bad, you know, and Bill Viliami Mata got in the team in front of him. It's difficult. You get close to people, you know. You know, I care about the players, but ultimately you got to be black and white and on how you come around your decisions.
Yeah, amazing guy.
Can I ask something? You know, so obviously you said about the $3,000 a year. Is that what they got paid?
Yeah. So there were no contracts to start with when I came to Fiji. It was you get an allowance that was the same since Waisali Serevi's has been around. It was $100 a day, £30 a day when you were overseas. And then you just get a win bonus if they pay it, if you win a tournament. And normally, like I think we might have talked about in the last one, a big cardboard cutout of a cheque that when you arrive in Nandi, but that nothing ever appeared. You know, and that's when people like Osei Kolinsau would stand up for the boys, and then he gets labelled a troublemaker and then gets ditched by the team before I was there. So, yeah, that's what they were on. And then I managed to get them contracted, and they were on between about 10 to 15,000 Fijian, which is about £2,500 to about £4,500.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
insane.
no.
But do you think so? I used to play with Dan Leo at WAS.
Chairman of the Pacific Rugby Players Association.
That's what I was going to ask. So Dan came in to when I was at WAS and had a chat, and I knew a little bit about the fact that Pacific Island players weren't just earning money for themselves, that they were earning money for their families and everything else, and that sometimes there was one player, I won't name the team, but apparently had 100 people waiting, you know, on living off what he was going to bring. And obviously, you know, for me, Pacific Islanders are always the best players. They're incredibly talented. But obviously, you know, Dan was the first one set. There are some problems that come with it with alcohol and bits and pieces.
Yeah.
A lot of that is almost, you know, education, exposure to new things they haven't had before, but also pressure. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no way of venting it. Men aren't great at communicating their problems at best of times. From what I gather, Pacific Islanders aren't that great at doing it.
Yep.
You know, even worse than us. And I followed Dan. I was really interested about what he was trying to set up, and he explained that to me, and that kind of almost moved me, because, you know, people look after their families, have pressure, but you don't realise that there's literally people that if you fail or you make a mistake, or that all of us make mistakes, that there's that added pressure. And I've seen a lot of stuff he's talking about trying to get world rugby on the table, and that the division of wealth should be there. I obviously assume
they have now got a seat at the table.
Oh, have they?
Samoa haven't they?
And Fiji.
But Tonga is still waiting.
Yeah.
So they now have a vote at the council.
But what's your view? Because that's what I wanted to know about. Because obviously, having seen it, it's easy for us. Like, it's always easy for people who are in, you know, a privileged position to talk about things and do little bits and pieces. But ultimately, we go to bed in nice houses, do whatever, and we don't. We switch our phone off or whatever, and that's not a thing. You've obviously lived it, both sides of the coin. I wonder, do you think there is more that we can do as a rugby thing to help? Or
Oh, there is. I think you're right, though, that sometimes, you know, the boys don't help themselves, you know, and you know, they sometimes do get things wrong, but often it is the pressure, and often it is coming from, you know, from Fiji, from a small village into Paris or London or whatever, and it's tough. And you're absolutely right. In fact, not only like will they pass their money down, sometimes their parents don't think they might even be in their mid-20s that they're old enough or should have their own bank account. So the club's paying directly to their mum and dad. It's not until they probably had a couple of kids and they're married that they feel that they're adults and able to do that. And then, you know, I've seen it where they might have 3 agents, a Fijian agent, a French agent, a New Zealand, and they're all taking 20-30% and left with peanuts.
We touched last time. I've got so many things I want to talk to you about. You're going to have to come back again. I want to talk to you about the breakdown skilled players philosophy,
crikey.
But we'll have a third crack at it if you're happy to. We'll pencil in dates in the diary. There's obviously been progress with regards to Tier 1 and Tier 2, and there's now going to be an international calendar that sees the Tier 2 nations getting more cracks at Tier 1 teams, and Tier 1 teams are going to tour Tier 2 countries.
Yeah.
How big a difference is that going to make?
Huge. If what I think will happen is, say you've got top 12, top 15 seeds, and that over that year they've got to play each other. So if you're Fiji and you're top 10, you get to play all the other guys in the top 10. That's amazing. If half of those games are at home,
are there the facilities and the?
Look, I think
is that an issue?
Yeah. I mean, it is and it isn't. Look, Suva can host. We've got a national stadium there that you can put 40,000 people in.
They do Super Rugby there, don't they?
They play Super Rugby game in there. So yeah, look, there's a few things that we'd have to. Yeah, we play test matches, and you speak to the boys, the Scottish boys that toured there last summer or the summer before. They had an amazing time
and lost.
Yeah,
I'm gutted we've never been there.
It's not since the 80s.
Yeah.
Nigel Redmond's team and that lot. That was the last time. New Zealand have never toured Fiji.
But I mean, that in itself is astonishing. That New Zealand have never,
especially as half the team's Fijian anyway.
Yeah, that is. So just to actually put it into the framework that actually there's no more like fingers crossed, Fiji will get a phone call from the French or the English and we can get a November test. Now it's like, no, you got to do it. You got to play. So then there's a real incentive to get into that top 10, top 12 or whatever it is. Doesn't, those teams that are comfortable, perhaps tier one, that perhaps aren't the Italys.
Yeah.
Fiji will be looking to start to push above those guys. And then it also gives teams closer to home like Georgia an opportunity to try and move up the table. So you want equality, you want a fair fight. I know Gus was one of the ones that was really pushing hard for that, and I hope as soon as that gets ratified, it's a really good news story about World Rugby, because I'm quite critical of them about a few things and about how they've let things like the breakdown and the laws just go off on a tangent. But this is amazing. This will be as big a game changer we've seen in the professional sport.
Do you genuinely believe that we are moving towards Fiji, Samoa, Tonga having the chance to almost just to fight a fair fight?
I think that framework's on its way, and I think that's a huge change for the game at international level. Huge change. We don't then get and hopefully then the next change is don't turn up at Twickenham for 82,000 people and get 50 grand. When they're making 6.5 million or whatever they're making. Come on, there's a little bit that seems. I know it's a business, but there is another team they're playing against to create that.
Yeah,
and pay them fairly, not 50 grand.
Yeah,
and say, well, you can have a nice hotel for the week. That's not fair.
Yeah,
and that's when World Rugby need to go. Now look, it's no longer about if you want to or you don't. This is actually within the regs now. You've got to start putting because if suddenly £1 million went on the table for Fiji to play a home game, playing at Twickenham, that's a massive game changer on the island.
Would it go to the right places?
But the infrastructure.
Well, now what happens now with World Rugby is they'll say that money goes into a World Rugby account. So there's people that are over there that we have accounts that the World Rugby goes into the Fiji Rugby Union, but it goes into their account, a World Rugby account. So they have to have a co-signatory. So over a certain amount of money, small amount, if it goes over a certain amount, World Rugby know about where that money's going and they keep a tab on it. Because I remember when I came in year one, and there was some money that I managed to get from someone that they just chucked it to the FIU and it went into bank account. We had something like 132 bank accounts. Took me about 3 months to find out where it ended up, because they were shutting down, opening, closing. It was like a student trying to get in. It was ridiculous.
Credit rating's terrible. It's like turning up with fake moustaches and wigs on.
So short answer, yes, that money is now. They've got World Rugby have learnt through experience. They know exactly how to look after that money and how to put it into the right spots.
Good for the game. Are you excited about?
Yeah, I think any opportunity to play any different nations than the ones you normally get to play is massive. I think the Pacific Island teams are incredible to play against. I would love to have toured there. I don't think I'll ever get the opportunity, so I'll have to visit as a tourist. I think obviously England playing wise as well. I won't see those changes as a player, which is sad, because I think when you're a professional sports person or whatever, you spend your whole life focused on what's in front of you. You're very selfish. You look forward to things that are around you. You don't often concentrate on what you're playing, the team you're playing, the story they're going through, what's happened, whether you're getting the pay equality and everything else. You're just very focused on what you're doing. Are you going to win? Are you going to make a good account of yourself and then carry on to the next job? So I think it's really interesting. hearing from Ben, and actually when you do get a minute to sit. I remember when we played Samoa, and everyone at the end of the game got in a huddle and went, and kind of took a knee. Like for me, that was like a really emotional moment for my career, because you get so many that run-of-the-mill bits and pieces, and you have the highs and lows of games, but having that moment when you actually bond with players over something specific and show solidarity, because
that was the week they threatened not to play, wasn't it, because of payment.
I just think that I think most players, and what's so good about rugby, and why I've moved from a few teams, and the one thing you'll always find is that rugby is rugby wherever you go, and that rugby attracts good people on the whole. Good people. But you're always worried if you change team, what's it going to be like? And it's good people. And I think if you actually ask the players, skipped the management and the people the money men, and actually went to the players and say, could you do more? Could you help? Would you support? Would you stand? Would you? Players, I would say 9 times out of 10 would say absolutely, we would stand by. If we felt very strongly about things, and I even think sometimes the boys are even probably more militant than the RPA would let on. They would. The RPA comes to us, but there's a lot of times where boys are quite outspoken. You just need somebody to come to you with a thing. And if I thought you could ever try to help them and do, I reckon people would, especially as an England team. To make it. To make it a fairer playing field, and to help and support people, because ultimately that we're all playing a game that we love, and it's not the most pleasant game to play at times. It takes a lot of toll on you, and even my generation of rugby players, I think there's probably a crop now coming through that may or may not have to work when they finish playing, but we've all got to find something to do. And I come from a privileged background. Imagine when it's life or death essentially when you're trying to earn money, and then you put your body through absolute hell. Probably don't have the medical attention. Probably don't have the advice. You don't know where all your cash has gone. You've given half of it away. Then you've got to stop, and then you've got to earn a living at the top of it. And then you've got someone saying, actually, look, you're probably not going to get paid as much. It's tough to hear,
3 quick-fire questions to finish. Do you think you will live to see the day a Pacific Island nation wins the Rugby World Cup in 15s?
Oh man. Well, I'm a positive person. I hope so.
Amazing, that, wouldn't it? I mean, can you imagine the party in Suva?
Yeah.
Fiji, we went in 07,
I think like from statistically, gingers kind of go early.
You're well, another 30 years. With all the knitwear, you're well insulated.
That's true.
You're not going anywhere.
No, so
soon.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, that would be.
What a story that
seismic.
Would be. What are your sort of relationship? What's your relationship with Fiji like now?
Well, with the people and the players, it's brilliant. I speak to most of my ex-players or the boys that are playing regularly. When I wake up, there's always a couple of messages on Facebook, and I help them as much as I can. And with the people, is the same. I hope I'm allowed in the country next time I come in. I have been outspoken about a few things, but it's only kind of fighting for the players. I say what I think. So there's lots of rumours I'm on the blacklist at the moment. So I'm trying to find that out.
What would that mean?
Won't be allowed to, when I fly in. They just either they'll send me back or they'll.
What, did you literally get through passport control? They're like,
yeah,
absolutely not. Off you go.
Yeah, back you go.
I
really hope that's not the case, and that's just a rumour that perhaps has
dammed up your waterfall, concrete it in, ploughed your house into the ground, and then just carried on.
Suddenly, I can't get sunscreen anywhere. Sorry, Sarah, we've run out.
You remember that scene out of that movie with I can't remember what the guy from The Matrix in it, where there's a guy literally trying to drink. I can't think what his name is, where he's trying to drink whiskey and alcohol. Every time he cracks a bottle open, he can't drink it. It's a religious movie. Right. I can imagine you everywhere you go, them shutting doors, like you're trying to squeeze it, nothing's coming out.
The sun's getting hotter.
Every time you try to get into your house, all the doors are locked, all the umbrellas fold up.
Putting jumpers on to cover my face.
I give you 2 minutes.
Oh no, yeah. I mean that's a
Constantine. The movie's Constantine with the guy from The Matrix in it. What's his name?
Keanu Reeves.
Keanu Reeves. And there's a character in it who literally he has to stop the voices, so he tries to drink alcohol.
Hopefully they won't hopefully customs haven't heard this, because that would be a.
I love that.
We had some feedback actually. We had quite a few Fijian commenting on our YouTube video for the back of your
great.
Let's hope they don't tell customs. Just very quickly on that, you've got people in Fiji at the moment casing the joint for venues for the film
next week. Yeah,
and the lead role has been cast.
No, the lead role, they're in discussions. It's really exciting because it's going to be such a feel-good, and it's going to really generate, people like that are going to already that have been to Fiji once and they love it, and people that see the film, I think, and also it will showcase rugby sevens, Fiji, and yes, it's a win-win.
I don't want to put pressure on you, and I don't feel like you want to say.
Can you have a cameo?
Can I have a part in there somewhere? I don't. If you want to say no, if you want to come on my show and say no, then you don't.
Yeah, I mean, what would you do? What would be? Would you be like in the opposition in one of the games, maybe?
I could do opposition in one of the games.
Yeah.
I could do security guard 5. I could do a baggage handler. If there's anything like
like when you come into Heathrow,
you could be
or something.
the customs dude that sends Ben away when he tries to come back to see his waterfall.
Yeah.
Can we write that in?
I could do something. No, I could do something. No, I mean, I don't want to.
Can I get back to you? Is that?
Well, I'm still waiting for your book.
I sent it.
Did you?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, you should have got that. I sent it the day you sent the message.
I haven't had that. I didn't want to send it. I would, hopefully we know each other well enough. I think I would have thanked you as well.
Yeah.
I would have given you an embossed note, on the headed note
Actually,
paper.
because I didn't have a book at home, I got Amazon to send it directly to you.
I didn't get it. I'm gutted by that as well, because I was hoping when I saw you come in, I was like, oh God, I hope he doesn't test me on his book. But I haven't had it.
You just want to send Ben the copy of your 3 books as well, don't you? Can you have those
send it. Yeah. Do you like into cooking?
Yeah, I love
it. Yeah.
Health and fitness?
No, cooking.
He doesn't need that. You're still doing your 1,000 press-ups a morning?
104 I did this morning.
Did you
Yeah,
really?
I was quite pleased, yeah.
We actually just talked about it pre-show. There's a bloke that we both follow, a guy called Dave Goggins, who's an ex-Navy SEAL, and there's a great audio book called Living with SEAL. And he's a madman. And actually, we were talking about he does things called in and outs. And every time you go, essentially in and out of a room, but he's obviously got a bit more time on his hands than I've got. But we go every time you go in and out of a building, you do 10 press-ups one side, 10 press-ups the other, or some body weight related activity. But I didn't realise you'd be doing 100 press-ups. You showed me out.
That is very impressive.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to...
No, don't.
Demo
honestly,
now.
We could have a press-up-a-thon.
No, we don't need that. We've got to maintain a certain level of class. Like that story about the building that wooden thing at the beginning has ruined it. And the last thing I want him to do is do press-ups. He's kept, when I talked about the CDT.
Yeah, that was dreadful. That was very seriously poor content. Just apologies to our regular listeners.
Ben's brought like a real level of prestige to this show, because it was at times it's a complete shambles.
Yeah.
And I just don't think we need you doing press-ups.
Okay, that just, yeah.
Yeah, you don't
Somebody
need that.
said you're doing 50,000 steps a day. I think that was Rob Vickerman last week.
No, I did
I did Fitbit.
Yeah, no, I'm doing a lot, but I'm not doing 50,000. I did 55k, so that was a lot more than 50,000 on New Year's Eve.
You did
no, I'm averaging about
55k on New Year's Day.
20,000.
And why?
I just kind of like it. I kind of get addicted to wanting to, again, just like consistent behaviours. A bit like David Goggins, just keep doing lots of small things.
Keep up the good work.
Yeah.
It's been such a good show. What I've loved about this is this, I think, has been the most emotional show we've done. We've had clowning about, we've had some relatively interesting rugby chat, but that was genuinely moving.
There was one where you asked me, you got emotional. I thought you were asking if you got emotional about going to Vegas, because I was about to start crying. When I think of some of the stories of my Vegas time, I was about to well up. I was like, oh my God, that time at the MGM, it was crazy. But then I realised you were talking about much more deeper things.
Yes. It took you a while to cotton onto that, but you got there. Thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure.
And we'll book you in for episode 3 to go through the topics that I want to cover with you. I'm slightly loath to tack on this week's Perfect Pour, because it's been such quality content and such interesting depth and insight.
I've actually
but
got
here
a
we go.
neck ache for listening, because I'm really interested in what Ben's got to say, and I normally just come out with a load of bleh.
Yeah.
I've got a stiff neck from looking at him the whole time. I don't have a lot of movement.
You're going to be out for another few weeks, are you?
Yeah.
I can go borrow one of my
Chris Boyd.
turtlenecks.
Yeah,
and
actually,
vest
imagine that. I wish we had a
You could have
reinforced
rested.
turtleneck. I'm going to bring that out for those of you with a mobility challenge.
Dun, dun, dun. It is time for this week's Perfect Pour. Our weekly test in 119.5 seconds, because that is how long it takes to pour the perfect pint of Guinness. Each week we try and set James a task which he attempts with a varying array of success. Harry Potter, average. Sherlock Holmes, very impressive. Christmas, a disgrace.
I don't remember it.
No. It was a hell of a show. That,
What
actually.
a show that was. Can I just say,
What a show.
don't get me wrong, Ben's 2 shows were incredible. I am genuinely interested in everything he's got to say. I'd love to have him on again.
But you like getting pissed in Christmas.
But that
talking
Christmas
rubbish.
show was just so loose, and Simon, our producer, had to cut some bits out that I think should be put into some sort of blooper reel where it can flash up and flash off, and no one can keep it, because Guinness will get upset.
Oh yeah, like a sort of Snapchat.
Exactly.
Get me with the social media.
Yeah.
Right, this week we are indulging James with his love of diggers.
Lovely.
Chloe thought it was going to be about her, didn't she?
Talking about Snapchat, you're so old that your first kind of social media was a Telegram, wasn't it? That was how you used to get messages around.
I'm going to keep going because that needs a bit of work.
Semaphore. Semaphore. It's not going to work. People will laugh about it. You haven't laughed, but people will laugh. He's laughing politely, but it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not laughing at the right thing.
You've been away for a week. You are a bit rusty.
Oh, shut up.
Definitely not as natural as we think. The Archbishop... What is it? The Archbishop of Canterbury. I wrote it down.
Oh, no.
I can't find
The
it.
Mayor of Chatmandu.
That was the one.
Yeah.
The Mayor of Chatmandu. You're
play
at
for FC Barcelona. Oh, God.
Base camp at the moment.
Yeah.
We're going to test you on diggers, construction equipment, farming, and the like.
Okay.
Can I just say that when producer Si asked you what you wanted your topic to be this week, diggers was the response. So I said, "What? Where are you knowledgeable? What areas of expertise do you have?" And you said, "Nothing too detailed. I know about farming stuff like tractor brands."
Yeah.
Brilliant. Si is a very busy man. I reckon he spent 4 to 5 hours trying to research tractors.
He doesn't have to go so complicated. Like, people lose the will to live in this section.
Yes, me included. Okay.
You're lucky to be here. Just remember that.
Do you think?
Tude, you've got a lot of tude. You've come at me a couple of times on this show.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a little meeting off air. Just say, listen, pal.
Be interesting to see who's back next week.
I will kill you.
Yeah. Okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, question number 1. I kind of want to dim the lights and put in some intense music just to put you under pressure.
Did you see that Jeremy Clarkson's apparently doing Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yeah, I saw that.
What's that like?
I didn't think he had.
It's not?
No.
Apparently you can ask him.
Yeah, you can.
Oh,
and he keeps getting it wrong.
According to Farmers Weekly, what are the 5 most popular tractor brands in the UK? Not a question I thought I'd be asking on House of Rugby, but away we go.
John Deere.
Correct.
New Holland.
Good.
Fendt.
No.
Massey Ferguson.
Yes.
Ford.
No.
Renault.
No.
Case.
Yes.
How many we got? One more.
One more.
New Holland.
No,
I said that.
You said that. Like Santa
Claus. Case.
Klaus?
Klaus.
Very good.
C-L-A-U-S. Yeah, no.
What does the IH in Case IH stand for?
Case IH.
Do feel free to chip in, Ben, if there's any tractor
IH.
knowledge that you'd like to share with our
Friendly
audience.
Hydraulics, isn't it?
Nope.
Independent. I don't know.
International Harvester.
All right.
What was New Holland formerly known as? You've mentioned it already.
Massey Ferguson.
No.
Ford.
I'm going to whisper them to you on
Don't
stage.
whisper them to
Just
me.
put Haskell on a close-up, and then I can... What colour is associated with the Renault tractor brand?
It's orange.
Correct. You played rugby in Japan, James. Apart from Mitsubishi and Honda, can you name another popular Japanese tractor brand?
Kubota.
Correct. Yanmar released a limited edition tractor in 2016 bearing the crest and colours of which Premier League football team?
Everton.
Nope.
It must be Man United.
Correct. You can have that. No, Man United it was.
Yeah.
Ipswich are the tractor boys, though.
Yeah.
That would have been
But they're not in the
brilliant
Prem.
time.
Brilliant. What a brilliant time Alex having.
Complete this lyric to a famous song by the Wurzels. I've got a brand new combine harvester and I'll give you the...
Key.
Correct. The word tractor comes from the Latin word meaning what?
You should know this.
I should.
Pull.
Correct. Amatis.
Bambas bat, Barmas band.
To the nearest £20,000, how much would a new top-of-the-range 9RX Series John Deere tractor cost you?
I want to say 200 grand. 250 grand.
Very good. 270 it is. You can have that. That's not bad.
Well, it's not 2 a.m. It's 3.
The letters JCB stand for the name of the company's founder. What was his name?
Oh my God! If I get this wrong,
You should really. Are you not an ambassador?
yeah, sort of.
I can just
This
hear
is
them.
bad. I've never even concentrated on it. I know it's Bamford's the last part.
Oh, well done. That's good.
I've never even thought about it.
Well, you should have done. Particularly as
John?
a brand ambassador. No.
I can't think. I don't know.
Joseph Cyril.
Oh, Joseph Cyril Bamford. Oh my God, that's embarrassing.
Yeah,
I want to apologise to everyone at JCB for that.
Do you want to offer a free endorsement of how good the product is?
For me, they're the best construction equipment going. I absolutely love it. Please don't take mine away from me. I didn't know. How was I supposed to know? It just says JCB. Mine says JCB Site Master on it, actually. 4CX. Don't worry about it.
What does a backhoe loader consist of?
A backhoe loader. Mine's a backhoe. It's got a front bucket and a rear bucket on it.
It's a JCB digger tractor with a bucket.
Yeah,
You can have
I've
that.
got that, yeah.
How many square metres is a hectare?
Oh, do you know this? A hectare.
100? No.
50.
10,000. You can't have that one.
Oh,
How much does an average... I genuinely can't believe I'm asking this question. How much does an average sheep fleece weigh? £5.5, £6.5, or £7.5?
£7.5.
No, it's 6.
Oh,
How many eggs? Again,
this is amazing. Isn't
I
it?
can have. Yeah. How many eggs does a chicken lay on average? I mean,
Don't think you're
how
better
has
than
it
this.
come to this?
Hey,
No,
listen,
I
you
genuinely
think you're better than this. You think you're better. Sky don't do any sport anymore of rugby. They don't do anything. So forget about that dream. We're on to House of Rugby.
And here I am
the
asking
sodding question about the eggs.
How many eggs does a chicken lay on average in a year?
1,000?
1,000 chicken. 1,000 eggs.
day.
That's 3 eggs a day.
Well, it's fucking.
What else are they doing?
Well, that's what I mean. I'll tell you what I'm going to do.
100, 300, or
Crossing
500?
the road.
Yeah, very true. 300.
Yes, so not 1,000.
All right, sorry. I just got over it. I thought it was a good
okay.
egg. Not good egg. Good chicken.
Which current England player would you set up a successful farm with?
Who would I set up a successful farm with? I think one of the Ben Youngs.
Ben Youngs.
Well, yeah, Ben Youngs. Ergo. That's not right. It's not
Vis-a-vis.
Vis-a-vis Ben Youngs.
Okay. And which one would be a complete failure?
Who would be terrible at running a farm? Johnny May.
Oh, go on. Why? I reckon Johnny May could.
Nah,
he would.
No, I'll tell you why. He'd spend all his time trying to talk to the animals. He'd be scared of everything. You'd find him like. He'd just get confused. He'd end up falling in a silo. Like there'd be some sort of absolute carnage going on.
I'd like to see Danny Kerr farming in his ice white pumps and skinny jeans.
Yeah, but now he's
well-pruned
now he's
hair.
a father. I think you know what I mean. He's got that kind of.
He can handle shit.
He can handle. Yeah, I mean that's perfect.
Johnny
answer.
May. Rap. I'm being told to rap. Again, we
I heard that. Even I heard.
Yeah, it's come
Did you
through
hear
the
the
next door.
producer?
Yeah.
Rap. How many did I do?
Pretty well.
Not that bad.
We'll give you a B+ for this week's
Not that bad.
show on tractors. Not so good on sheep.
Yeah, but I didn't say anything about sheep.
Yeah, you did. You thought it was £1,000 for a half of.
No, I said it was £7.5 for a fleece.
Again,
I thought the chicken laid 1,000 eggs.
I know.
I thought they lay like two a day.
None of this I have an idea.
Ben, I'm so sorry.
Why do you not know about chicken? This is bullshit. How does he not know about chickens? Like I honestly thought they would lay more than that.
Right.
What do they do all day? What's the point of them?
Now that is a profound and philosophical question. And one we'll explore on next week's show. The point of chickens. Please discuss. Ben, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for some diamond content. We look forward to having you back to discuss the game itself at some point, which would be very nice. James, lovely to see you too. You've got a line in front of you. You are going to play the part of Ellis Genge,
Right.
who is our guest next week.
Okay.
Producer Si has been on to Ellis Genge to say, will you come and be a guest on the House of Rugby? Si texted him to firm up the details today with a message that said, Ellis, we'd love to have you on the show. Wondered if you could possibly do next week, the 15th of January. We'd need you at 7 o'clock in Farringdon. You'll be finished by 8:30. And Ellis's immediate response, as played by James Haskell, is...
Here, Si, where the fuck is Farringdon, mate? All right, Babber.
Good. I think next week's show could be quite lively.
It could be. I just want to say one thing to Ben. Like, your part of the show was great. That last part, I don't want to ever think you have to be associated with that. Like, we could probably just pretend you weren't there for that last part. And I want to apologise for my opening story. I was a bit rusty. I've only had my missus to talk to, so the chat's obviously been downhill. I think Ellis will be great.
We could be going anywhere and everywhere.
I can't wait. I love that guy. He looks like Dredrick Tatum. The very first time I met him, he just gave me like an evil look, and then I realised that was his face.
Right.
I was like, why is he so angry all the time? And then I realised he's not. He's actually super friendly and a lovely guy. So I'm excited. He's got some great stories.
Good.
Half of them we could never possibly say on here.
Good.
Asking about the changing lane story.
Will you? Well, I can do. Hopefully, you'll be back.
I doubt it. After tonight's show, I doubt it.
We're going to duel. Here's to Ellis. Here's to next week. Thank you very much, Steve, once again, Ben. Well done for turning up this week. James, see you hopefully in 7 days' time. See you then too. Have a good week in the meantime. Bye for now.
You've been watching the House of Rugby on Joe, together with Guinness. Drink responsibly. Visit drinkaware.co.uk for the facts.